Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do a whole new entry here. This one yet again based on one of your newer suggestions. Lots of interesting suggestions this go around, some of them with very catchy names. They instantly catch my attention, and such was this case with regards to this particular entry. This one has to do with a spirit that may also be considered a cryptid, so it's almost 2-in-1 when it comes to this particular suggestion. But this is a creature or an entity that's found there in Jamaica, and it's not necessarily a good one to come across too. So it has to do with this. You're looking at it now. It's known as the rolling calf. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating info associated with this very unique ghost or spirit. So what is this rolling calf? Well, again, it's something that's found there in Jamaica, maybe even in the Caribbean area, and apparently it's even part of their folklore. Maybe it's one of those deals where it's passed along through various generations, and to this day, maybe parents or others warn people about encountering this particular entity. So as far as what it is, it's physical characteristics. This ghost is a huge, almost bull-like creature, and you're going to see some various interpretations of it here, that's found roaming the various night environments or landscapes there in Jamaica. It could be coming across a road. It could be coming out of, let's say, a foresty type area. Whatever is the case, you'll definitely hear it first because it tends to have this clanking noise surrounding it. So whatever this giant bull-like creature is, it also has these chains that are wrapped around it, and apparently it moves by rolling around. Hence the name of it being the rolling calf. And then these chains, if you hear it around your area and then you see it, you'll also know that this is the rolling calf because it has these very distinct blazing red eyes is what they're called. And in some cases, it also exudes or has this fire that's coming out directly from its eyes as well. So this is a creature, again, that would have quite a sight when you see this ghost or spirit there. And there it is rolling around in the nighttime skies or nighttime environments. You can hear it first by that clanking sound of those chains, and then sure enough, once you see those red eyes penetrating through some kind of foresty area and then it comes out into the open, then you'll know that you've come across this rolling calf. But as I was mentioning, this is not something that is good to have near your area because it is apparently very bad. Like, it'll chase people down with extreme harm. Like, in other words, it's trying to make sure that it'll catch someone, and who knows what it does afterward. And maybe it's up to the point of causing very good damage, or like bad damage, in other words, but also even up to the point of death itself. Considering it has those chains on it, considering it has those giant horns on there, it's a spirit, it's a ghost, but the idea is that it can still somehow cause physical harm to those to the people that it comes across surrounding its area. So you don't want to have this creature or whatever this entity is within your proximity. You'll also know that you're within a closer approximation to its vicinity if you happen to be near some caves there in Jamaica, or if you happen to come across a large section of bamboo trees. For whatever reason, this ghost/spirit lives in the roots of those bamboo trees, and in other situations also cotton trees. And then one last thing, if you happen to come across let's say an open field and you see this creature at some kind of, I don't know why, but it seems to follow roads, then that's where you'll have another chance of coming across this entity. Now, as far as what makes up this entity, like where it exists from, this is why it's more part of the folklore there in Jamaica. It's not something like, let's say, coming from another realm or coming from another dimension, from heaven or from hell, nothing like that. Instead, it seems to be that this entity, this ghost, is the descendant of spirits of people that used to live around that location. Maybe they lived in Jamaica, maybe they lived somewhere else. Who knows how far back? But the idea is those people that lived were not good people. They were people that were actually pretty evil. Like, they were considered very wicked, very dishonest, and in some cases outright murderers/butchers. And during their lifetime, they did a lot of bad deeds. And then when they ended up passing away, their, I guess, punishment or retribution, whatever was the case, like in terms of some form of justice being enacted on them, it caused them to become these rolling calves. So they would spend the rest of their eternity encased in this ghost slash spirit, and then there they are roaming again the landscape, the environments there in the nighttime, having to just do whatever these rolling calves do with no hope of essentially coming out of it. That is their punishment. That is essentially what they do on a nightly basis. So it's kind of again like a damning way to have these people, whoever they were, have this kind of revenge placed upon them. Now, there is still some hope if you happen to come across this rolling calf. Like, let's say you're there in Jamaica, you hear the noise, you see the eyes, and then finally it's out in the open and you're stuck. Like, you're wondering, what am I going to do? This is a dangerous entity. How can I get around this? Well, you do have some tricks that you can do. I imagine that if this folklore is popular enough there, then the people that happen to have, let's say, late night working jobs there in Jamaica, they have to travel between various places late at night. If they do it on a routine basis, I imagine that they have these things with them all the time if they believe in this folklore. So the way the story goes is, if you wanted to protect yourself against a rolling calf and you see one in your vicinity, all you have to do is drop something. I don't know, it could be anything that's considered a small amount of objects. Drop it on the ground before you, because for whatever reason, the rolling calf will actually be stopping itself to count the items. So let's say you have a bag of beans with you. You could throw that bag of beans, make sure that it's open when it hits the ground, and then there they are. The beans disperse all over the ground, and the rolling calf will be compelled. Can you believe that? Actually compelled to stop and count them. Or if you wanted to do something else, maybe it's a bag of rice and you know all those grains within them, or a bag of sand, or a bag of marbles, whatever is the case, whatever you have, you can drop those objects there on the ground, and then you have the rolling calf staying there. You're safe. You can run away, obviously, as quick as you can. It's not good advice to stay there afterward, but at least you'll be safe from the rolling calf. Another thing you can do is, remember I was mentioning earlier how for whatever reason these rolling calves seem to like roads. Well, if you come across one at a road, all you have to do is run away as quick as you can, but go to the nearest part of the road that becomes a crossroad. Maybe a T section, maybe a full four-way stop, something like that. And when you do so, go across it and then go to the other side, whether it's left or right or forward. And this thing, whatever this entity is, will again be compelled to stop. For whatever other curious reason, these T-sections or these crossroads will have the creature stop. It's probably mystified by the idea that there's other corners in such a fashion as opposed to a regular road, and so it's actually stopped right there. So if you do that, at least you'll be safe as well. And then interestingly enough, if you happen to have a regular penknife in your vicinity, let's say you hold it in your pocket or somewhere else, if you have it at the time, all you got to do is just stick it into the ground in front of you. Again, I don't know why that helps, but it certainly stops this giant rolling calf, as dangerous as it is with its horns and its chains and its rolling momentum. This tiny little penknife will stop it in its track right then and there. And then one last thing you can do if you happen to come across this entity is, if for some reason you happen to have a whip in your hand, that tiny whip, or however long it is, will scare the bejesus out of the rolling calf. Like, it'll actually run away. It'll be so terrified that it'll just either stop and then turn around and then run away, and then you are completely safe at that point. And you make sure that you hold it in your left hand. So interesting stuff, right? Here you have a couple of various scenarios, from tiny objects that'll stop it in its tracks, to otherwise going across certain parts of the road, to otherwise using a tiny penknife, and then finally having some kind of whip. All of those options tend to work with this rolling calf. Maybe it was something else as far as the creation of this rolling calf, like how the first one was initiated. Maybe it was originally tied to some of those objects, and then all the rolling calves afterward are linked to that original one. I'm just throwing guesses out here, but I'm wondering how all that stuff comes to play. But that's pretty much it. That's all the info associated with these rolling calves there in Jamaica, maybe even in the Caribbean area as well. Another thing I wanted to mention, I don't think they seem to roam the daytime. Nothing else that I was able to find mentioned people encountering this entity there, let's say during the daytime, morning hours, evening, stuff like that. It always seems to be at night. So if you are there in the Jamaica area and you're coming across those aforementioned bamboo trees, or maybe those caves, or maybe other type of areas like cotton trees, you'll be safe really, as long as in the daytime. It's the nighttime though that you're going to have issues with this ghost or spirit. But let me know, please, if anyone is there from that location. You might know more history associated with the folklore of this ghost or entity. Please post those comments below. Anyone have any maybe personal encounters with it? I'm always interested to hear on that part too. Please share it as well with all the other YouTube users out there. So all right, everyone, thanks again as always. Take care.